Strengthening your ability to hear what your spirit already knows begins with confidence. Welcome back to Along the Spiritual Journey, and I is for intuition. I am your host, Jah, your spiritual tour guide, and along this journey, there are many questions that you will have, like, what is an awakening? What is a kundalini? What is whatever? And so my attempt is to try to answer some of these questions for you in my own interpretation based on my own experience. And of course, your experience will be completely different than mine. So intuition is an unspoken knowing. A lot of people call it the gut feeling, or they just know and don't know why they know, or it's just a calling and they just kind of follow it and it just all seems to work out. These are all aligned with the what we call behind the veil, right? There's the veil of intuition that comes with the physical, and then there's the veil of intuition that comes with spirituality. And so intuitively, we can walk into a room, look around, gauge the people based on personality, based on what's happening, and kind of say, you know what? This is probably not my vibe, right? Like if you walk in and a bunch of people are kind of already fighting and yelling at each other and they got attitudes, instantly your intuition's like, something might pop off. I should probably go. This is not where I belong. And then spiritually, your intuition can be, you're just sitting somewhere. Everything is peaceful and quiet. And out of nowhere, I know people have seen these videos online. They're so impressive where you just get up. Something says, get up. And you just get up and you walk away, and out of nowhere, boom, the bus hits the table or flies through the door, or something comes and falls down right in that spot you just were. And you're like, had I not listened, that would have been me. And so this is a muscle and a tool that I think everyone should practice and exercise daily, because it really is innately built in all of us. When you see, and I always say, we talk about how further away humans have gotten away from their true selves. And this is very evident when you watch other species, when you watch birds migrate, or you watch how dogs just sniff around and can remember where something is based on nose and all their senses and stuff. Yes, there are the scientific things where we could break it down in science of their olfactory glands and all this, but there's also a sense of intuition that is built in innately throughout their species that continues generation after generation, and it adapts. We adapt as well, but our reliance on the things that we have created have kind of made us drift from listening to our gut intuition. We get what we call foggy mind, and we start wanting to believe what others tell us more so than what we believe we know is true for ourselves, right? We know it. Like you can tell, we talk about, like, the simple one is butterflies in the stomach. Now, most people have come out and said, oh, these are butterflies because it means that you're really like this person. And then other people are saying, no, those are butterflies as a warning, telling you, your body's telling you to stay away. To each their own interpretation. The point is, are you listening? Do you know how to listen? The gauge of the spirituality comes in is, can you tell if this is a good butterfly or a warning butterfly, right? Because they are different. And from what I've learned and experienced is, when I have an intuition or a gut feeling about something that is for the positive, usually my mind goes into overkill. It's like working overtime, like it thinks of all the negative things that I should avoid. And it's like, but why am I putting up so many walls in my head about something, even though it feels right? Like it feels like I should try it or think about looking into it. To me, for me personally, if my mind goes overkill, it means it's probably something I should try. So usually if it's like, okay, should you go on this vacation? And then everything as I lined up and everything looks good, and I start thinking, oh, I don't have the money and I can't do this and I can't do that. That's the ego. That's not my intuition. My intuition is like, this opportunity was presented to you. Like if someone's like, here's this free trip, everything's paid for, taken care of. Here's the legitimacy of it. It's all legit. You don't have to go back and worry, but this is just for an example. It's all legit. Nothing is wrong with this trip. But My ego can make me believe that something can't come this easy. It can't be this good. And a lot of people miss out on some great opportunities because they can't tell the difference between intuitions that are a blessing or their ego disguising as their intuition and making them turn something down. Now, there are situations where, let's say, I go visit someone and I'm sitting there and instantly, there's no thoughts. It's just an instant, this don't feel right. There's no words to my intuition. That's how I can tell the difference. There's no thought in my mind. There's no words. It's a repeating, something doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. And so I trust it and I get up and go, or I dismiss myself. And I tell you, believe it or not, every single time I will leave something early and somebody who stayed will call me and be like, oh my God, as soon as you got up and left, blah, blah, blah went down, or such and such happened. You just missed it. And I'm like, hey, I just listened to my gut intuition. I just listened to myself, because the body is unspoken. It will talk to you and it will find many different ways. We call them goosebumps or goosies. That's my confirmation. I get those a lot. Like after something happens, or I'll say something that I know that I am confident is true, at least from my own experience, instant goosebumps. And I'm like, confirmation. And some people are like, maybe you're just cold. These are always going to be those naysayers and people who aren't used to listening to the unspoken language of spirituality. But when I tell you, it happens in the most random moments and the confirmation happens instantly and my whole body feels it. It's not localized, it's my whole body. And it's just like a tingling feeling of like, yeah, that was the right decision. And after that moment, everything proves that I was right. So that's why I start listening to it. If I denied it and kept denying it, every time my body tries to talk to me, if I ignore it, then eventually my body's going to say, okay, well, you think I'm a liar, so I'm just going to stop communicating with you. And then that's how people fall into situations where they're like, how didn't I know? Why didn't I know? Because you allowed your ego to tell you that your intuition was not as important as its knowing. And we have to remember, we are, or when I say we, the mind and eyes that are seeing through right now, that's talking to you, is my consciousness. My body, if I was blind and could not see, would be communicating for me, because I would have to rely strictly on my senses. But because I can see, some of that is tuned down, and my brain is interpreting more data than my body needs to. So the brain is always going to convince you of what it thinks it knows based on the experiences that it's already had. So if you've already experienced something and you know the answer, your body's going to say, hey, how many times do we have to do this? Because we've already done this. Don't you know the answer by now? And some people really don't know. They think like, well, every time I date such and such type of person, this happens. And then they will go date the same type of person and be like, why does this keep happening to me? I don't know why. That's why we have to remember that life is a video game. And it's like every time you like power up and get new skills in a video game, that's your intuition leveling up. So like every time you experience something, may it be the most simple mundane thing like learning how to drive a car and making sure you look both ways, because intuitively, right, you don't know if a car is coming or not, but sometimes your instincts are like, look both ways. And as soon as you do, phew, that car fly by, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I looked. And then that reminder is like, yeah, I should probably be checking. I got a little too comfortable not checking. It's an antenna. We are an antenna. Like, think about it. I always use the analogy when you work with, I used to work with animal training and with dogs. And I would look at them and I would learn body language and I would learn their senses and how they would stop and stare and kind of read me. And while they're reading me, I'm reading them. And in this moment, it's an unspoken language that we are both intuitively learning how to communicate without actually using what we call spoken language, right? Because barking for them is spoken language. For us, it just sounds like bark, bark, bark. But to them, we probably sound like bark, bark, bark. Like we don't know what they consider what our vocals sound like. So a lot of it is always based on tone and frequency, and again how you express something. And then what they do is, just like children, because we as humans do the same thing. Remember, we're giant children. We don't actually listen to words and the meaning of words. We listen to the tone of a word and how it's used, right? You can think of like when somebody says shut up. Somebody be like shut up, like playfully, or shut up, like mean. You're not listening to the word, you're listening to the tone. So based on that interpretation, your intuition has to say, oh, this is what they actually mean. This is my gut understanding or the meaning of it. Because I always am fascinated by how humans interpret information. We love to give the brain a lot of credit. Again, the brain deserves tons of credit. But a lot of it is just fed to the brain, and the brain is literally a memory cell of storage. It's a storage unit. So even though it feels like we know, we really don't know until we put something new into the storage container, right? Until something new is presented to us, we're convinced that's the answer. And then something comes along and changes that answer. And then we have to emotionally be willing to accept that answer to let that new information in. So intuitively, when it comes to intuition, it's about trusting the information on how you process it. So that always comes back to confidence. The one thing that will be repeated in this series and most of my videos when it comes to the spiritual journey is confidence. You have to learn how to trust what is happening to you. Yes, it is nice to compare and contrast to what others are going through. Yes, it's nice to have a community and tribe to rely on to say, hey, I'm not the only one this is happening to. But the journey when you enter it is solo. Right now, as I'm communicating with you, you're joining a tribe, you're joining a community. So there will be others like you who say, oh my God, I've experienced that. I know what you're talking about, where you're coming from. But they had to trust that journey in order to get here, right? Because most people, once they walk into the realm of spirituality, most people think it's a joke. They think like, okay, whatever, this is hippy dippy woo woo. You're just making stuff up. Okay, right. Those crystals are charged. There's crystals in your cell phone, right? There's crystals in your car. So believe it or not, it is a conductor of energy. So even if people don't understand something in its raw form, it does not negate that it is still something that we utilize as an information conveyor, right? You have to remember that anything that is trying to communicate with you will not always be auditory. It's not going to be vocal. You can't just rely on someone telling you what the truth is. You have to learn how to feel the truth. You have to learn how to hear truth through feeling. You know when you're with someone, again, we'll use dating because that's the easiest reference. When you're dating someone and they're not giving you attention or ignoring you, it feels off, right? That's what we know what love bombing is. They come in, they give you all the attention you want, all the love and affection you desire, and then out of nowhere it starts dwindling off. They start disappearing, not even physically, just emotionally. They're just not as in tune. And so that tells you right there, like, what's going on? What's happening here? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like we're not as close as we used to be, or whatever the case may be, right? That's your intuition trying to communicate with you. I go through it all the time. And the thing that I've learned is you either skip a few boards and jump to whatever level you want to be, but you'll still have to repeat them. The last video I talked about in healing work, if you don't heal old cycles, and which means if you don't allow your emotions to complete journeys of not knowing and letting your thoughts not allow themselves to get new feelings of thoughts about something, and not just having an old feeling of this always happens to me. Okay, well, that's a feeling of a thought, so it will always perpetuate until you change your mind about things happening to you the way you think they happen to you, versus knowing how things actually happen, which is life is life. Nobody is as special as we think we are. There are some of us who are blessed to be able to interpret energy in a special way, but that doesn't mean that we're not all going to lose our lives one day. And that's what I mean by no one is special, because no one is living like forever. I mean, sure, it might be. I don't have this information. Maybe there are people who are immortal and they live forever physically. I don't know if it's true or not, but spiritually and emotionally, yes, people live immortally. What do you think history is? Anytime we perpetuate the energy of someone's past and talk about them as if they're still here, or use their works of life as relevant today, then yes, they're immortal in that aspect. And so when we start learning that about self, we start recognizing the patterns of how do I want to leave my legacy. Now, for me, I learned that a lot of people repeat the same cycle of not knowing versus just learning, wanting to be a part of knowing. Some people will go their entire lives not wanting to know, not needing to know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That means it's not their journey. Some of us are here to, we need to know. I need to know why. And it's a double-edged sword because you don't want to get so caught up in needing to know all the time and not experiencing. But some of it is based on, I need to know why so that I can give it back to the collective conscious. Every single human being that is on this earth is here to give back to the collective conscious some way. Every single one of us, in some level, is a memory of a thought in somebody's narrative. Whether you like it or not, may it be good or not, bad or not, you are some type of villain or hero in somebody's story or backdrop character. It is how it is. What people used to call NPCs, okay, well, they're necessary. An NPC is a necessary part of the story because it builds the environment, it builds the backdrop, it builds where am I at, right? It builds the energy of how to learn what you're seeing, especially in your dreams. When you're dreaming and it's giving you intuitive hits, like, why am I having this constant dream of I'm always stuck in a factory and I'm always trying to escape and there's always somebody in the background playing drums? I'm just making this up as we go. Intuitively, there's a meaning there for you. Do I know what it means? No, I'm not a dream interpreter, nor am I a psychologist. But there's somebody who understands, or at least have come up with a conclusion to what that might mean based on studies and repetition of learning. Like, intuitively, I believe this is true because this is what has happened over and over and over based on their woke life and in their experience, what they say they have gone through. There's a correlation here. And so intuition becomes about connecting those correlations so that when something comes to you and is trying to speak truth to you in an unspoken way, you trust it. You have confidence in it to say, no, that's not my journey. That's not for me. That's not where I want to be in life right now. And then sometimes, again, there is going to be ego involved where your ego is like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to do it. That's fine. But there's situations when your intuition's like, you don't want to do it because you don't want to fail and you're scared, or you don't want to do it because you know that this is not meant for you. And that's the truth answer that you have to give yourself emotionally. So you can say, well, I've never tried it, so I'm scared. And intuitively, your body's gonna be like, that's okay. It's okay to be scared, but you got to try so that you know. And if you don't know, you're never going to know. So you kind of have to go with the flow in these situations. So again, intuition, I try not to make it seem, again, I hope I'm not all over the place. I hope this makes sense. But either which way, some tools or exercises that I do to intuitively listen to myself. Now, do this only in your house. Don't do this outside. Please don't. I close my eyes and I walk around the house and try to guess where I'm at. I just try to let my body tell me, like, you're probably about to run into a wall, or you're probably about to hit the table. So I walk slowly with my eyes closed and I just kind of let my body feel and kind of use like a sonar type feeling of like, can I feel energy around me? Does it feel like something's in front of me? Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. It's just a game. You don't have to get it completely right. It's just an exercise. It's not meant to be the end all be all, but it's fun to do it. Other times I'll do the same thing where I'll be talking to someone and I try to guess what they're going to say next. Not out loud, just in my head, like, based on what they're saying, I think they're going to say this next. And again, this is a training method of logical intuition. So yes, it is something that you can control, but the spiritual side comes in play when you know how to say, okay, I learned how to read that person's body. I learned how to read their energy. I learned how to read that animal. I learned how to read their energy. Now that I'm in that bigger world, do I know how to read energy that's sporadic? And so when you walk into any situation, that's when intuition starts kicking in automatically without you giving it any input. And that's when the body has to be like, okay, we're in a new environment. What do I know? What do I trust? What do I see? And you start giving it feedback. The feedback loop is very important to intuition, because if you don't allow intuition to speak to you and you stop the feedback loop at ego or distorted ego, where you say, I don't believe it and I don't want to hear it because that's not what I was taught or told, then you're usually going to fall into a lot of conflict. That's where you'll meet people who are constantly in conflict with people because they only trust what they've been taught. When I meet people who are like, no way, I'm not changing, and they make everything so difficult, and it's just to receive new information, that I know that their intuition's off. I'm not saying it's completely off, because some people intuitively, again, they listen to their body really well, but they don't listen to their mind, and vice versa. Some people listen to their mind really well, they don't listen to their body. The goal is to learn how to listen to both, how to integrate both, how to listen to that again. May it be a voice, may it be a whisper, may it just be a feeling. They all matter because you give them meaning. So if you allow that meaning to guide you, it will help you along this journey immensely, especially when it comes to discernment, when you're reading new texts, when you're learning new practices and modalities and things of that nature. You have to have discernment. You have to have intuition. You know how many times, again, I've met other people where they're speaking about spirituality and they dress a certain way and act a certain way, and they're all like, yeah, man, we're just in the vibes. And I'm like, okay, this feels good. Yeah. My intuition's like, this is fake. These people are not in tune. And that's okay. I don't say nothing to them. I vibe out, enjoy my time, and do my thing. And lo and behold, when I walk away, I find out later, oh, this person, they're a spiritual F-boy, or they're a spiritual F-girl, right? We know the type, where they love to dress up and talk Grand Rising, you know. They love to use the language and all of the characteristics, but they don't know anything about the spiritual realm, because they learn that, oh, these people, they don't use logic as far as proof to show them anything. They use their emotional logic as feeling to tell them what's happening. So if you feel good and if it feels right, then there's people who know how to manipulate that. And so again, intuition comes in to play when it comes to manipulation. I mean, at the end of the day, manipulation is a double-edged sword. It has its duality. It's not a bad thing, no more is it a good thing. There's people who, again, depending on what energy they're working through, can use manipulation to hurt people or to gain for self only. And then there's people who use manipulation to mold, to create something new, because you have to manipulate clay in order for it to become a pot or a bowl, right? That's why I say words have so many meanings, and words are spells. So again, depending on what type of energy you're working with is what type of energy you're going to replicate into the world, which is why we say be careful about what you say. So intuitively, for myself, I know that on my journey of, let's say, love, I know that in the past I was very controlling, and I thought I always knew right. And even till this day, I like things a certain way, but I had to learn that all I'm going to do is call in relationships that are just as controlling. And we're going to have this dynamic of fight, flight, because we think that we need to be right. And what I've learned intuitively, my body's like, can you learn to be quiet? And I'm like, no. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to continue these conflicts. And it's like, it's not about shutting up for somebody else. It's about shutting up for self. Because sometimes I need to hear in silence what I need to hear so that I can gauge how to navigate this board or this path per se, right? Again, think of it as a video game. If I just keep running out and just going full throttle and I keep falling off the edge, okay, well, I'm not listening to my intuition. Part of me is like, slow down, observe, figure out, is this the only way to go? Do you only have to jump over this edge, or is there another way to go around? When you do that, that's when you're able to navigate experiences better, right? Remember, the spiritual journey is about crossing a bridge. We all live in the physical, logical world, but once you get to the bridge of spirituality, it's about learning how to trust in self. So again, I don't know what your inner world feels like, looks like, sounds like. Only you do. So when you're there, only you can decide, is this bridge meant for me to cross? Okay, now that I've crossed this bridge, how do I decide which part of this journey I need to experience? Because again, the spiritual journey is a choice. You don't have to experience it, even though everything in life is spiritual. Drinking water is spiritual, breathing is spiritual, seeing is spiritual, hearing is spiritual, walking is spiritual. Again, because you do not create it. You do not create the choice to breathe. If you did, great, do it. Stop breathing and see what happens. You don't decide if you need water, the body does. You don't decide if you need sleep, the body does. So intuitively, there's parts of us that we know, I have no say in this, so I have to learn how to navigate it without knowing what it means. I don't actually know how my organs work. Just because people cut up a cadaver and look at it under a microscope and assume, we still don't know. People are just now saying, oh, the heart is actually a pump. Or then they say, oh, it's not a pump, it's actually a spiral. Oh, it's like, okay, all I know is it's keeping me alive, and I trust it, and I love it, and I respect it, right? It's okay to not know everything, but still respect that journey of not knowing while you're still learning what you need to know. I know, that's sounding convoluted, but I don't need to know how every part of the anatomy works to respect the anatomy. How is that? Is that easier? I respect what I do know, and I respect what I don't know. And that's the balance of learning how to have confidence in your intuition. So again, remember, intuition is about learning how to listen to the body, not just the mind, but the body itself. So like, again, we talk about if you have aches and pains, why is it localized on this side? Why is my shoulder always hurting on this side? Why is my foot always hurt? Listen to the body, it'll tell you. Navigate and go back and figure it out. For me, again, I tell people, I had to figure out why I was always having neck pains. And at first it seems simple. People are like, oh, maybe because you're standing this way or this way. Honestly, no. It's because I was leaning all of my weight on my right side because I'm a left-handed person trying to do things in a right-handed world. So I was constantly crossing my entire body over my right side, so that put weight on this side. Guess what that did? It displaced my hips. So then my hips turned crooked because I was constantly turned to one side. And then guess what happened? My back started hurting because, well, if you're only working one side of your body and you're only working one side of your hip, you're going to only work one side of your back. So this back starts to tighten up and overcompensate up in the upper top, and then that was hurting, and then my neck started hurting. So all I did was trace it back and figure out, like, what am I doing? What am I doing that's making my body feel this way? And when I fixed that, when I was like, oh my God, I need to put weight on both feet, and I started to practice it and do it daily, do you know all those headaches went away? All that stress in the neck went away? I mean, I still have it because your body has muscle memory, so it's going to twist back to the way it was. But you have to practice untwisting it. You have to practice undoing things that we think we know is truth so that we can get back to center. So when you trust what you feel and think, intuition will turn itself up like the volume on a radio, right? You gotta believe in what you say and what you do. I don't care how delusional it sounds to somebody else, because there's a lot of things on this earth that we don't really know, that other people know, and they keep it secret. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but there's a lot of things that people are just now recognizing that we have never been told. And if you are only given a certain amount of information, it is very hard to trust something that is unseen that's always trying to communicate with you. So remember, yes, we are human, but we are special. We are magical beings put on this earth. We literally can conceptualize thoughts and emotions and feelings, put it in music and song and writing and acting and depict it. We make engines and buildings and all these really cool things. Where does that come from? That's not just us knowing. That's something that is speaking to us. That is something that is intuitively giving us guidance and information. And if you really learn how to integrate it into your daily life, that's when the spiritual practice of trust and learning and confidence gets stronger. And then this voice inside of you, again, that everyone has, I know people say they don't have it, it gets muted if you don't listen to it enough. But everyone has an inner dialogue. I know some people say they don't, but I'm standing 10 toes down. Everyone has an inner dialogue. They just choose to listen to it or not listen to it. It either becomes muffled or it speaks loudly to you and you hear it very well. And that's also another video too, where I believe there's certain people, again, where your body, It's like a broken radio or something. Like it's still trying to get the signal, but it can't quite get the signal because its antenna is bent. So if you fix the antenna, the frequency and the channels will come in more clear. So it's the same with the body. That's why they say eating well and taking care of yourself. Again, no one's going to be perfect. I'm not saying you have to eat perfectly healthy. You have to be perfectly fit, but I'm saying be fit and well enough that when your body communicates, you trust it. So I hope this all makes sense. Thanks for joining me along this spiritual journey. Again, I is for intuition. So trust in self, believe in self, have confidence in self, and it will all make sense. Always check me out on my social media pages. You can check me out on my website, epicenity.org, where you can find my projects as well as services and my blog. I have a lot of things there. And yeah, check out my other channels. They're all connected below. And thank you all, as always. Besos.